Do 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 do
Texas homeowners. If you
Oh, Texas homeowners. Do 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 do. Come chat. Do do do. Do. Boogity 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 boogity. Hi Smith. Hey Zentrix. We'll get started here in a minute. And we'll get into it. Get into it. Yes, indeed. The opinionated gamers. Hello. Hello, hello. I seriously need to trim the old beard. It's getting scraggly. Look at some of that. Look at that. Gots to be trimmed. Gots to be trimmed. You don't look like a happy man. I am neither happy nor unhappy right now. I'm not feeling too good. I've had headache and stomach problems all day today, but I'm here. I'm here. And we'll be getting going in about 3 minutes. About 3 minutes. Give everybody a chance to get settled in, so to speak. Settled in. Yes, yes, yes. Hell, brother! I had intended to do a retro stream this week, but my job's been working me to death all week long. I had to stay over almost every day this week, and it just wasn't happening. It just sucked. Show hasn't officially started yet, Samurai. Hold your questions till we get going. Oh, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee. 2 minutes to go. We're just making sure everything is looking copacetic here. I do hate the amount of the auto focus on this Logitech C920. I'd like to get something that's got... I mean, it's sharp enough, but... I'd like to get something nicer eventually. I don't drink energy drinks either. Too much sugar. Way too much sugar. It's not good for your heart. Not just the sugar, but all the caffeine and stuff that they pour into those. It's not good for your heart. Get going here in another minute. Almost ready to go. All right. It is Saturday. It is 6 p.m. January 16th, 2021, and this is the 7thCast. As always, I am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is in his room, and as I recall, he was playing Dragon Ball Kakarot. That was the last thing that I heard or saw him do. That is a political question, Maxie, and all of you know I do not talk about politics on this stream. Not even 5 minutes in. Not even 5 minutes in. Good God Almighty, people. Do you like Mother 3 or Earthbound, and why? I played Earthbound a little bit on Super Nintendo. Never was a big thing for me one way or the other. Final Master Links up. So, 56K warning. Bang, bang. Hello, how's it going? So, I got a notification in the mail this week, on top of everything else that was going on, that my YouTube network, Screenwave, the same network that the Game Chasers are on, same network that Game Sack and a bunch of the other retro channels are on, same network that the Angry Video Game Nerd is on, were restructuring this year, and that restructuring included letting go channels that hadn't exhibited any growth or were otherwise non-active channels. And that mine was one of the channels that they were going to drop for lack of channel growth. In other words, I wasn't making them enough money, basically. And it wasn't just me. I have friends that have friends that have friends that have friends that work at Screenwave, and I have heard that a large number of channels are getting dropped at the end of this month. And the rumor, of course, I can't back any of this up, okay? But the rumors that I've heard are that the vast majority of the profit that company makes is from the Cinemasker channel, AVGN's channel. And that in order to maintain their current business model with the way things are going with YouTube, they are cutting the cord on channels that aren't earning enough money to warrant them having channel managers to deal with the number of channels that they have. So if that's true, then that also means that there's a number of channel managers at Screenwave that may get a similar notice shortly. I don't know. That's just a rumor I heard. I have nothing to back that up. The only thing I can confirm is that I am, as of January 31st, I am no longer with Screenwave. I am a free agent again. I still have AdSense, but I won't be under a network umbrella. That being said, Screenwave have always been courteous to me. They've always been polite to me. They never really did anything to build my channel or to get me out there to a wider audience. They did design, a very good graphics designer at the company designed me some new graphics for my channel, of which I was very appreciative and still am. I've met Ryan, I believe his name is, who is the head of Screenwave or what have you. Had dinner with him one night at Retropalooza along with all the other Screenwave channel people. And the one time that I met him, he seemed to know who I was. And we had a nice conversation. And that conversation continued somewhat at dinner that night. And through him, I also met AVGN and Mike Matei and all of them. And that was the last time I've ever spoken directly to Ryan. I think that's his name, Ryan. And again, they've always been nice if I ever reached out and asked them about this or asked them about that. But I will say this. I don't believe that this was due to Screenwave, but the decline of my channel started almost immediately after I was convinced to leave the network I was on at the time and move over to Screenwave. I was talked into it by, my friend 8-Bit Eric. And this was when he was working for them as a channel manager. And that was in 2016. And since that time, I have lost somewhere around 4,000 subscribers since switching to Screenwave. Now, I'm not saying Screenwave did that, because at the same time that Eric moved me over to Screenwave was when I had a drought of videos because I was preparing for the move to Texas. But my channel has never really recovered from that. And because of that, I wasn't making any money ad-wise for them to be making a profit off of me. They don't, just like any other network, so this is nothing special to Screenwave. They only really put any strong promotional push behind the channels that already have way larger subscriber and view counts than me anyway. So they never really did anything to try to make me grow or make me any bigger. And so I never really made any money for them, and hence I am toast. I am no longer with them as of January 31st, along with Lord knows how many other smaller channels such as mine. It is what it is. It seems to be, from what I've gathered, that the cap seems somewhere around anyone with less than 50 to 75,000 subs is gone. I could be wrong on that, but just judging from other people that I've talked to and what their subscriber counts were, that seems to be where the cutoff was. I don't know. So what that means is no more having to worry about whether my intro is too long or not. I can run my intro as long or short as I want, because that was something they told me would make the channel more appealing. No more worrying about what I do or don't stream on here, because not streaming on here was something that they convinced me to do, because they said that it would make my channel more appealing to the algorithm. And then what ended up happening was all it did was cut the viewership of the 7thCast in half. $5 from Devil20. Thank you, Devil20. Appreciate the $5. Which I should stop and remind everybody, this is a 3-hour podcast. Runs from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central. It can be extended by donation. If a total of 50 is reached, I stay till 10. 75, I stay till 11. And anything $100 or up, I stay until midnight for an ass-blistering 6-hour podcast. So, I am not really looking to ever do the network thing again, because, I'm not going to name names, but I have friends that are with Screenwave that have told me that the only reason they bother with them at all is for potential protection if someone tries to hack their account or false flag their accounts, etc., etc., etc. So, sounds like 8's getting ready to take a shower. Anyway, I haven't really had problems like that, in a long time. Not since like 10 or 11 years ago, with people trying to take my channel down with false flags and all that. And when it did, I fought the stuff myself without having a network, and I got it taken care of. So it's not that big a deal. It just means that I'm not going to have to filter myself anymore outside of not breaking YouTube rules as far as what I post and that kind of thing. So that's pretty much it. It's done. That it's not going to have any effect on, anything else. My friendship with people that are still on that network, not affected at all. Had nothing to do with any of them. Should Retropalooza ever pick back up, which it's supposed to pick back up in October, as long as the vaccinations are going well, I guess. I'm still planning to attend conventions and do all of that. This isn't gonna have any effect in any of that. It's not gonna have any effect on my cameo in the movie for the Game Chasers or any of that shit. It has no effect on anything except for the fact that I'm no longer considered. I'm no longer a part of their network. That's it. Because I haven't made much in the way of advertising money in years now. So, it is what it is. Other than that, let's see. As far as like development, since you saw me last night, I told you guys I bought this, but I didn't have it unwrapped, or it hadn't actually shipped at the time that I talked about it. So I thought I'd show you this. This is my new foot pedal for my guitar. This is the Boss ME80 multi-effects pedal. Now, it's brand new. I got it from Guitar Center. I initially ordered it from Musician's Friend, but they messed my order up, so I canceled and went with somebody else. Now, this particular model by Boss has been available for 6 years. It came out in, actually 7 years now. It came out in 2014. They have newer models now that have a big, giant LED screen in the middle of it. I chose to go with this one anyway, because there wasn't that much of a difference in cost. The reason being that for me, sitting down with my guitar and tweaking a dial here and there is a much faster process to get the sound that I want than pulling it up in a menu, navigating down to a sub-menu, selecting something in there, then using up and down buttons to change the depth or whatever, and then saving it and all that. Moving dials is faster. This is tried, true, tested tech. And so I went with it, and I'm very happy with it. And I will be making new music with it shortly. Other than that, there haven't been any developments. I haven't bought any new game. Well, I did pre-order one thing because 8th wanted it really bad. I pre-ordered the $140 collector's edition of Scott Pilgrim for PS4. So he's going to get the little carrying case that opens up to a little band stage with the lights and all that stuff. He wanted it, I don't know. So I bought it. Of course, because it's a pre-order and they have to actually manufacture the stuff, not going to get it till sometime in the summer somewhere, like 4 to 6 months. But, he'll get it eventually. Of course, by then, the people that didn't care about that crap and just bought it digitally on the store will have already played through it, and so he ain't going to have anybody that's going to be wanting to play it multiplayer with him by then, but, he'll still have fun with it. Yes, it has wah. It has a lot of things for someone who just asked. This doubles as both your wah pedal and any other effect that can be phased up and down like that. And it does some other things too. But it's not just wah. It's got wah is one of the effects on here, but you've also got phaser, flanger, chorus, delay. It's got multiple different amp presets, so you can make it sound like you're playing from different types of amps. And these down here also plug into storage banks where you can store up to 36 custom sounds that you've gone through all of this and designed yourself, and you can just pull those sounds up with these pedals once you've stored them. So it's a beast, man. It's the kind of foot pedal that I've wanted for years, but for whatever reason just never bit the bullet on it. Well, I have now. So anyway, let's see if we get caught up here. Thoughts on Bonk's Adventure. Bonk's Adventure is one of my favorite TurboGrafx games. The arcade version is not bad either if you've never played the arcade version. I have it on my little Super Console X thing here. Let's see here. I finally played Days Gone on PS5. Really liked it. Underrated game. Yeah, it had some bugs in the beginning. Runs a lot better now. And if you can get past that first 10 hours where there's not a whole lot happening in the story, it's pretty much fire everywhere after that. Hopefully they don't want their chocolate bar back. This year they didn't even send a chocolate bar. They just sent a Happy Holidays card. No chocolate. No chocolate this year. Maybe the people that have 50,000 subs and up got chocolate, but I just got a Christmas card. Have you had any other offers from any other networks? I did a couple of years ago. I'd get contacted by a network wanting to know if I wanted to be on a network, and I'd tell them, no, I'm happy where I'm at with Screenwave. Let's see here. Hi, Juggernauts. Hi, Video Game Lover. How am I doing? I'm doing all right. Turkish Van. Ever played Tasmania on Genesis? Yeah, it's trash. Let's see here. How does Screenwave push channels? They have their own little promotional tools that they push stuff with, as far as like, their own Twitter and their own this and that. And they do cross-promotional events where they have other channel runners show up on more popular channels to boost that person's individual channel. You see a lot of that on Cinemassacre. Let's see. Sucks you got dropped. Sounds like your experience could have been better. Well, I mean, they didn't necessarily do anything wrong, in regards to me, aside from giving me advice that, cut my podcast viewership in half and didn't end up having any kind of positive effect on my view count whatsoever. But I know they had good intentions in that regard. I still talk to my channel manager. We follow each other on Twitter. It's just, they did what any network would do, which is the bare minimum if you're not already a big channel pulling in big numbers. What guitar do you have? It's an Ibanez. I'm not a particularly big fan of it. I'd rather still have my Robin Pro Medley 1991 that I sold years ago. I'd rather still have it, but it gets the job done. If I had my choices of guitars, I'd have a buddy of mine who runs a custom guitar company called Lucky Dog build me a guitar, but they're $2,500, even for me. That's the discount. That's him selling it to me at his cost, $2,500. For anyone else, it'd be over $3,000. So, ordered the standard edition of Scott Pilgrim. Loved playing it on the PS3 when it originally came out. And that's a good point. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of digital. Today, I hooked up a 2 terabyte external hard drive to my PS5 and started installing all of my digital PS4 games onto it, which I have in excess of 600. And which, by the way, worked absolutely fine. I had no issues hooking the hard drive up to the PS5. In fact, I had 2 hard drives running on it at the same time. The one plugged into the back is my PS4 game drive, and the one that's plugged into the front is what I use to store any video game footage that I capture. Which, by the way, I exported my my Ass Creed Vikings footage today, so hopefully in the next week or so I'll have a review of Ass Creed Vikings for you. But downloading all those games, I started thinking about all the games that I downloaded over the years for PS3 that are not in that library. Games that I wish I could still play. Like there was one of them, I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of my favorite PS3 games, and it was almost like it's hard to describe. It was a retro inspired game that almost had like a feel of a mixture of Yar's Revenge and a couple of other things. It was called Firefly or Dragonfly or something similar. Or what was it called? No, not that. It wasn't that at all. Frantic or something. It was a shooter type game in space. It was kind of like, when it came out, it was almost like PS3's answer to Geometry Wars, but it wasn't Geometry Wars. And it was freaking phenomenal, and it's never been released on PS4. And the only way that I can play it now is to hook up my PS3 and play it. And I can't even remember the name of it. But there are dozens of games like that on my PS3 that were games I loved on PS3 that were digital games that have not been passed to PS4, not been passed to PS5. They're not on PS Now. So the only way I can play them is to hook up my PS3 and play them. And should the hard drive in that PS3 ever die, I'm out of luck. And that's why I don't like digital. And one of these days, what I might do is I might do a stream one night where I just hook up my old PS3 and I show you guys all the stuff that I have installed on that thing, which is considerable. It was the 500 gig model, the PS3 Mini, and show you some of the games that I still have installed on there, including the original Scott Pilgrim. It's still installed on there and still works. And I'll show you how much money was spent and how many games, did not carry over because their license was never renewed to be reported over to future consoles, and of course because neither the PS4 or the PS5 have PS3 backwards compatibility. Now obviously I can still play them on PS3. It's just kind of a pain in the ass to bring it in here and hook it all up. Let's see here. Probably going to... did you play Drakengard 3? I have Drakengard 3. I believe the one I'm missing is Drakengard 2. I have Drakengard 1. I only played Drakengard 1. I never got around to actually playing Drakengard 3, but I have it on PS3. Did you buy the TurboGrafx Mini? No, I didn't need it. Firstly, because I have a TurboGrafx 16, and I have most of the games that are on the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. And secondly, I have the Super Console X, which has every TurboGrafx game and every PC Engine game ever released on it. So I don't need a TurboGrafx Mini. Are you sure MLD is coming back? He's talked about it. I mean, he told me he had a new microphone and a webcam. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Who knows at this point? But there has been discussion. What kept you from getting the plat on Greedfall? Nothing. I have the plat on Greedfall. Hello, sir. Do you watch Yong Ye? Nope. Did you platinum Miles Morales? I haven't even played Miles Morales. I own Miles Morales, but I have not played it yet. I'm still playing Ass Creed Vikings. 7th, did you know that Kevin Smith made a Mooby's restaurant? Yeah, it was one of those quick setup things where it's only there for a little while and then it goes away. I hate that I have to have a Ubisoft account to unlock characters. Yeah, it kind of sucks, don't it? Thoughts on anarcho-syndicalism? That Kind of sounds like a political question, don't it? That or the worst named game ever. Syndicalism. Assassin's Creed games have been down the poop since at least Assassin's Creed 3. I hated Assassin's Creed 3. I started Assassin's Creed 4 and I was liking it, and then I put it aside to play other things, and I never picked it back up. And at some point, we must have sold it to Half Price Books because I got to looking for it and couldn't find it. So I think we sold it. Not that it would matter. I wouldn't want to play it on PS5 because it was frame rate locked at 30. So playing it on PS5 wouldn't offer any benefit whatsoever over the PS4 version. Aside from maybe better, upscaled frame rate, but that'd be it. I'd hated Assassin's Creed Unity. Assassin's Creed Syndicate was so-so. I haven't played Origin. I haven't played Odyssey, but I'm liking, for the most part, Valhalla. I think it's a little bit longer than it needs to be, but other than that, I've enjoyed the game and the storyline and whatnot. Oh, by the way, for the $5 donation, I forgot. There you go. There's your dollar bill. Forgot about that. You already asked me if I played Drakengard 3, and I answered it. Let's see. Sega took Afterburner Climax. I have that one on my PS3 off the store. I love that damn game. Also, Simpsons Arcade. I have that on my PS3. Of course, I have that one on my my Super Console X, but still. Did you start WandaVision? Yeah, I watched the 2 episodes last night. They captured the feel of Bewitched pretty well. They captured it quite well. It seems like that was the old sitcom that they borrowed from the most. They borrowed some other things. One piece of the opening borrowed from the opening for the Dick Van Dyke Show, only instead of tripping over an ottoman, he sifts through a chair. The layout of their living room is pretty much taken from the Dick Van Dyke Show, more or less. So, they borrowed from a couple of other shows, but for the most part, they were riffing on Bewitched, which makes sense. Let's see here. If any old YouTuber was to come back, I'd love to see Wipeout come back. I think I saw him on Twitter a couple of years ago. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Thoughts on Final Fantasy 16? Well, it's moving forward in their abandonment of turn-based RPG. It looks like a fun third-person action RPG, I guess. I just got my PS5 today. Well, good for you. Glad you were able to find one. 7th, do you think Willy's Wonderland will be amusing? I don't expect it to be that good. That being said, I'm interested because I love Cage. Well, I mean, if a Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff starring Nicolas Cage sounds fun in a totally batshit insane way to you, then go for it. It's watching the trailer. I feel like it's going to be a so bad it's outrageous type film. Thoughts on Roddy Piper? I've talked about Roddy Piper to death. I've told that story a million times. If you want to know what I think about Roddy Piper, I have an old video on my channel called Thank You Roddy that I posted when he died, and you can go watch it, which also includes footage of me hanging out with Roddy Piper. What's your take on Odin Sphere? Odin Sphere was pretty good. If you like that Muramasa, the Demon Blade style of game. Of course, it predates Muramasa, but that's the next one that I can think of to compare it to. If you like that style of game, then you'd like Odin Sphere. Sorry I'm late. What are your thoughts on LucasArts returning under its original LucasArts? Well, I mean, it's in a name only. Uh, you know, don't just because they're saying that they're bringing back the LucasArts name, don't think that instantly means that we're going to get Knights of the Old Republic 3, or that we're going to get Day of the Tentacle 2 or Full Throttle 2 or any of that. Right, as of right now, it's just a name, and we don't really know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Would you fight Ronnie Pitt? I don't know who that is. Are you familiar with the stereotype that black superheroes tend to have electricity power? Never really put that much thought into it. I mean, I remember, I know there's Black Lightning, there was Black Vulcan on the Super Friends, and then there was, Static Shock cartoon back in the 90s. Those are the only three that come to mind immediately for me. Did you enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake? It was okay. You know, it did its job, I guess. I didn't think it was anything mind-blowingly spectacular myself. Thoughts on CDPR's apology video? It's corporate fluff. It was a nothing burger. Thoughts on the announced new open world Star Wars game? Well, is it going to be I know they said it was story driven, quote unquote, but World of Warcraft has story to it. Is it going to be a big open world single player experience like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or is it going to be a game as a service type thing like Avengers, or is it going to be an MMO like Star Wars Galaxies? That's what I want to know, because I'm only interested in a big open world single player Star Wars adventure, like the Mass Effect of Star Wars games. Something like that would interest me. Have you watched any reviews on the Atari VCS? Yeah, it's just a stripped down computer. It's a very stripped down entry level computer. That's all it is. You can install Windows on it. Did you like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Not really. The only thing on Fresh Prince that consistently made me laugh was when they'd throw Jazz out the front door. That's the only thing that ever made me laugh out loud on that show. Every time they chucked Jazz out the door, I would laugh. That was it. What horrible monetization tactics will Ubisoft add to their open world Star Wars game? Republic credits. Forced chips. God, I don't know. Who knows? Talking about Final Fantasy VII, I still have to stand by my opinion that it's the most overrated game in history when it comes to Final Fantasy. Best game is Crystal Chronicles. I'll take that. My favorite is 6. Do you think Ubisoft is going to let us down? But then again, I also like Final Fantasy 12 way more than other people seem to. I loved the music in Final Fantasy 12. Do you think Ubisoft is going to let us down with this open world Star Wars game like they did with The Division and Watch Dogs? Probably. Daddy, can I have $300? Was pretty funny too. Okay. Thoughts on Bethesda's announcement of an Indiana Jones game? Don't care. Don't care. I'll tell you why. It's being done by Machine Gun Games. The last game Machine Gun Games released was Wolfenstein Youngblood, and it was a piece of crap. The game company is only as good as their last game, and that game was garbage. On top of that, in all of gaming history, I can only think of 2 Indiana Jones games that were actually good. One of them was a side-scrolling platformer on the Super Nintendo, and then the point-and-click adventure games on PC. I think there was at least there was like maybe 2 of those, 2 or 3. But I tend to remember them as just one game, which was the Indiana Jones and the City of Atlantis, or whatever it was called. Those were good. Everything else have been pretty much crap. I didn't like the arcade game. Still don't. The 2600 game was garbage. There was other Indiana Jones games on both the Super Nintendo and Genesis that were garbage. Indiana Jones and the Pharaoh's Curse, or whatever that game was for PS2 and original Xbox, it was a shoddy Tomb Raider ripoff that sucked. Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings sucked. I guess you could say that the Lego Indiana Jones games were good, but I don't really count the Lego games because for the most part, there are a few differences, but for the most part, you've played one Lego game, you've played them all. So yeah. What's the weirdest animated Disney film you've ever seen? Maybe not a full film. They did a short that was a Mickey Mouse short, and it was called like Brain Crazy or Game Crazy or something like that. And it was basically about how Mickey Mouse becomes addicted to video games. And it turns him into this unbearable, monstrous asshole. And if you've never seen it, you need to look it up. It was something else. Darth Dollars. Darth Dollars. Okay. No, you cannot ask one political question. I made a rule and I stick by it. What didn't you like about Division and Watch Dogs? Watch Dogs I just couldn't get into. I played the first one for like 20 minutes, hated it, and haven't played any of the other ones. I platted the original Division and hated it. The only reason I kept playing it was to plat it. Never bothered with the sequel. Did you like The Mummy? 1990. Do you mean 1999? With Brendan Fraser? That was 1999, not 1990. Good movie. No, I haven't played Mummy for the game, the Game Boy Color. What the hell? In retrospect, what use did these YouTube agents have for you? Not much, as it turned out. But they, they were always nice to me, and, they did put a good deal of work into giving me better video graphics, like a channel banner and graphics for my thumbnails and stuff like that. So, did they take a cut of your money? They didn't take a cut of any donations, but they would take a cut of any ad revenue that I pulled in. But then again, I wasn't pulling hardly any ad revenue, so that didn't really amount much to them that I know of. How often do you get a troll? Usually once, there will be at least one per 7thCast, and I'll have to ban them. Would you agree that Cyberpunk 2077 steals story elements from Fight Club? Kinda, sorta. With the whole multiple personality thing. But I think more than Fight Club, it borrows in a lot of ways from Keanu Reeves' old movie Johnny Mnemonic. Would have been funny to see you on an episode of the AVGN visiting the nerd room like JonTron and others did. I've never been big enough for that. Now, if they had done some kind of video event at Retropalooza for him, it's possible that I could have taken part in that, but they didn't do that. He was just there to hold a panel and sign autographs. Eighth is in his room doing 8 things. Does Eighth still have long hair? Yes, Eighth still has long hair. It's down to about right here on him. It's not quite, but it's getting close to Jason Mewes level from the Silent Bob movies. It's almost to that length, but not quite. Do you like coat? No. Thoughts on the complete blunder known as the... That's also getting into politics. What part of this is a gaming and movie and pop culture stream is not sinking in? Are your barbers shut down as well? Most of them are, yeah. I think there's a couple that are still open. I don't have to worry about that. I just use, an electric hair trimmer, and I shave my head every week. 7th, I want to see an AVGN video episode on Jay and Silent Bob, and James Rolfe meets Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith. Okay. Well, you should go ask AVGN for that. Men are not supposed to have long hair because it's considered cross-dressing. That is not accurate, sir. Don't start with me tonight. I'm not in the mood for it. If you were offered a role in Breaking Bad, would you do it? Well, that show is not on the air anymore now, is it? It's done. If I'd been offered a role when it was still being filmed, sure, I'd do it. Why is AVGN still doing the character? I'm sure he's tired of it. Money, contractual obligation. At this point, I feel like he's just keeping it alive to keep the revenue stream going for his wife and kid at this point. Have you played Ghost Recon Wildlands? No. Sir, near our place they're selling pre-owned Cyberpunk 2077 with a low price for PS4. Is it worth it? Not on the PS4. If you have a PS5, it's passable. Thoughts on Mr. Deeds? When did Sandler's movie start? I like Mr. Deeds. I think his movies started going downhill with Jack and Jill. There's still been a couple since Jack and Jill that I've liked. Even a couple that he's put on YouTube. Not YouTube, but Netflix that I liked. I liked Hubie Halloween. I liked The Do-Over. There were small bits and pieces of the Western one, the Ridiculous Six or whatever that he did that I liked. Bits and pieces. And that Adam Sandler movie that he put out last year, The Wrong Missy or whatever, I actually got a good laugh out of that one. I mean, Sandler's not in that one, but I got a good laugh out of that one. So there's been some movies he's made on Netflix that, I didn't hate. But I really hated Jack and Jill. I didn't like I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. I only like Pixels for the nostalgia of it. There's a few moments of That's My Boy that I like, but for the most part, I can't stand that movie. The stuff with Vanilla Ice is classic, though. I'll give them that. Every moment that Vanilla Ice is on screen is solid gold in that movie. I even like a couple of his romantic comedies. Like I like 50 First Dates, and I like that other one he did with Drew Barrymore, where they go to Africa on vacation. I liked that one, mostly because Terry Crews was funny in it. Let's see here. Are you looking forward to the Kenobi TV series? I'm curious. I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm curious. Best and worst Ed Norton film. My favorite Ed Norton movie of all time, and yes, I like this one even more than Fight Club, and you're going to hate me, is Death to Smoochie. Death to Smoochie is my favorite Ed Norton film. Least favorite Ed Norton film, probably The Italian Job. because you could tell he didn't want to be there. And the only reason he made it was because they forced him by contract to make it. Are you excited for Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil in Spider-Man 3? Hadn't heard anything about it. Have you watched Cobra Kai Season 3? Yes, I did. I think it's even cheesier than the first 2 seasons, but I didn't hate it. That being said, I didn't see the point in them bringing back Elizabeth Shue. She didn't have any direct impact on the overall plot of the season. She was basically just there to say, hey, look, I'm back, and then she was gone. Let's see here. Would you say that Happy Gilmore was his best flick? Probably. But really, I don't like Happy Gilmore more or less than Billy Madison. I enjoy them both at about the same level. Do you think the open world Star Wars game will be inspired by the Hogwarts game? I hope not, since the Hogwarts game got delayed. Hi, Nick Neal. Do you think Voldemort is a Darth Sidious ripoff? No, he's just a generic bad guy like so many other, generic bad guy versus the chosen ones that we've had for going back, 1,000 years or more. I like the Wedding Singer too. I like the Wedding Singer. I like Little Nicky. I would like the Water Boy better if he wasn't using that accent all the way through, which is also the one thing that keeps me from absolutely loving Hubie Halloween. I really like Hubie Halloween. I would like it a lot better if he didn't use that dumbass accent. How about Punch Drunk Love? I watched it once. I thought he did a good job in it. That being said, I had no reason to ever watch it again. Same with that other one where he plays the guy whose family died in 9/11 and now he's obsessed with Shadow of the Colossus. Rain on Me or whatever. I can't remember the name. Was that it? Rain on Me? I watched that once. He did a good job. Had no interest in ever seeing it again. Are you a fan of Alfred Hitchcock? Yes and no. I like some of his movies, don't like other ones. Economics is part of politics, Exuvia. That's strike 2. Try me, son. Try me. Did you like the film Primal Fear? Yes, that's the one with Ed Norton and Richard Gere. Yeah, not bad. What's up, 7th? Listening while at work. Hey, enemy, how's it going? Most people say that Billy Mason... I think you meant Billy Madison. What did you like so much about Death to Smoochie? It's just a really fun, dark comedy. And Robin Williams is brilliant in that film. And the back and forth with him and Norton and some of the other characters, it's my kind of dark comedy. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really great. And I still do. And a couple of years ago, I actually made 8th sit down and watch it with me. And he was griping and complaining that he didn't want to watch it. But by the time it was over, he loved it. So... I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima again on PS5. Cool. Yeah, it's a lot better on PS5. Better frame rate. How do you feel about the new Scott Pilgrim getting a physical release on the Switch? Well, I pre-ordered the physical on PS4. I didn't care about having the Switch version. Sadly, this is something that doesn't happen nearly often and as it should. We're lucky that we're getting a physical release of that game. Texas Chainsaw Massacre versus Halloween 1978, which was better? I like Halloween better. I mean, I enjoy the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I just like Halloween better. No, I didn't like Uncut Gems. I watched about 15 minutes of it and I just turned it off. I still need to finish it. Why are you scared to talk? I'm not scared to talk politics. I'm just not interested in politics. I'm not interested. I'm not a member of a political party. I don't vote. I stay out of it. I could not give less of a shit about politics. None. It's boring to me. I don't like giving opinions on stuff that doesn't interest me. Best and worst Stanley Kubrick films. For me, his best is The Shining. Of all the Stanley Kubrick films I've watched, my least favorite was probably Eyes Wide Shut. Just didn't do anything for me. Do you like Jason Statham? Yes. Are you a fan of Good Will Hunting? I love Good Will Hunting. Ben Stiller or Adam Sandler? Actually, I'm going to go with Sandler. I mean, I think Ben Stiller can be funnier, but then again, he also he's made over his career a lot of drivel, like Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers and all that. And Sandler has too, but I can point to more Sandler films in my list of comedies I'll rewatch than I can point to Stiller films. Thoughts on Box Adventure? I already answered that for you. I said I liked it, and that I also liked the arcade version. That being said, I also have the NES version, and I don't own it. I have I have it on my little retro console thing. I have the NES version and the Super Nintendo version as well. Do you like the movie Wedding Crashers? No. I am not a big fan of Owen Wilson. I've just never really liked him as an actor. What do you think of Bitcoin? I don't get involved in that crap. Are you a fan of Rounders? No, I didn't like Rounders. Kind of boring to me. Favorite classic horror movie? Well, that depends on what you consider classic. And that depends on the generation. Like some would say that a classic horror movie would be The Wolfman or Dracula or Frankenstein, all of which I love. Others would consider classic Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. It depends on when you grew up. For me, the classics would be the really old stuff, like Dracula and Frankenstein, The Mummy, that kind of thing. Do you think the Andor TV series will fail like Solo did? If Filoni and Favreau are doing it, it'll be fine. If they're not, then it's going to tank. Thoughts on the Ramones? I love the Ramones. Easy for someone that's getting into guitar and they just want to be able to play a famous song to make themselves feel a little bit better about how they're really new to it and suck. Hard to beat the Ramones for that, because if you can learn three bar chords, you can play the Ramones. Recommend me a good mystery movie. Good mystery movie. Murder by Death. Go watch that one. Here's a hint: if you liked Clue the movie, you'll really like Murder by Death. If something bad happened and you theoretically had no choice but to sell your video game collection all in one transaction, what would be the starting bid price that you would put on your entire collection? 10 grand? Thoughts on Forsaken Castle? Forsaken Castle. I don't actually remember that one. Hang on a second. Is that the one that was like the crappy arcade version of it's like the crappy arcade version of Castlevania? Or was that Forbidden Castle? Forsaken Castle. I have not played that. Looks like it's only on Steam. That would explain why I haven't played it. The Thing 1982 is my favorite horror. That's a great horror movie. Did you think Freddy vs. Jason was trash? No, I loved it. because it was exactly what I was expecting it to be. Funny and stupid. I went into it with low expectations, and it met those expectations. I think they should have kept the original scripted ending where Pinhead shows up at the end of it, but still. What are some good Jason Statham movies you recommend? The first 3 Transporter films. Transporter 1, 2, and 3. Those are my initial go-tos for Jason Statham. Also, The Expendables 1, 2, and 3. Have you seen Tremors Shrieker Island? I haven't watched a Tremors movie since Tremors 2. That was the last one I watched, because once it didn't have Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon, I didn't care. You know, I've never thought of the dad from Family Ties as a compelling horror action comedy actor, and I still don't. His character doesn't interest me enough to keep watching those. How would the Star Wars sequel trilogy have panned out if Filoni had written and directed them? Well, if Filoni had written and directed them, they probably would have been based on George Lucas's treatments, for one thing. Did you like Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Which one? There's been like 4. I liked the original, and I liked the one from the 70s with Donald Sutherland. The rest of them have been kind of ass. Are you looking forward to the Switch Pro? Not really. I've barely played the Switch we have, because it's always in 8th room. 7th, I know you don't care about Hitman 3, but they had to release a long-ass guide on how to get your Hitman 1 and 2 content into Hitman 3. It was hilarious. Movie recommendations. Not really a recommendation, more just a curiosity that you should check out. It's a bad movie, but it's bad in an amusing way. And it's a movie on Hulu called Supervised. And it's spelled like Supervized. And it's basically takes place in a world where superheroes are a reality. And when superheroes get old, they move into this retirement home out in Britain somewhere. And so it's all about these old-ass superheroes that are trying to solve a mystery that's going on in their retirement home. And it has Tom Berenger from the original Sniper film, and he was in Major Leagues and a bunch of other things. It has him playing like the Superman character, and it has Lou Gossett Jr. in it playing their version of the Flash, and which amazed me because I thought Lou Gossett Jr. was like either done acting or was dead. I think he was in. Wasn't he in that crappy Watchmen show that they had on HBO? Wasn't he in that too? But I thought he had, after that tanked, that he had just quit. So it shocked me to see him in it. But the acting is good. The storyline is ridiculous, and some of the script, like the lines and delivery and everything, not the delivery, but some of the lines are just horrible. It's not a great written film, but it's such an interesting premise that I found myself laughing at it when I shouldn't necessarily be laughing. So you might want to check that one out, but it's called Supervised. And there's this one guy who you never know who he is or what his power is. He just walks around in his stained tidy whities, walks around the old folks' home going, "Ultraman!" Only he's an old guy, so he's like, "Ultraman!" And you never know what it is he can do until the last bit of the movie when you finally see him use his powers. And it was such a build-up to something so minor that it made me laugh to think about it. But yeah, it's one of those so bad it's watchable films. And it's called Supervised. Also, a horror movie you might want to consider. There is a horror movie on Shudder, and the name of it just slipped right out of my 46-year-old head. It's always one of the ones that Shudder recommends if you have Amazon Prime. Basically, these people out at sea find an old ass World War II German submarine floating around, and they get up in it, and it's got like vampire monsters in it, and it's just a really fun, lower budget, but still passable effects horror film. And now I can't remember the name of it. Bloody something. Shit. Hold on a second. Let's see here. Let me find it. Horror movie. Shudder. Let's see. Submarine. Blood Vessel. It's called Blood Vessel. And so that's a good one if you like horror films. Check that out. Favorite Bruce Campbell movie? The Evil Dead trilogy. Don't even have to think twice about that one. That Watchmen show doesn't exist, for shame. Oh, that's right. What was I talking about again? Last thing you watched on Amazon Prime. I don't remember. It was last week sometime. I can't remember what it was. Can't remember. Probably one of my old movies from my library. Another thing that I watched this week was on Netflix. It was that new Nicolas Cage show as like the history of bad words or the history of dirty words. And it's literally a comedy documentary series about the history of some of the most infamous curse words. Hosted by Nicolas Cage. And I laughed quite a bit. It's fun stuff. Hi, Short Round. Do you think Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is underrated? I think that movie would really be looked back on a lot more fondly as a cult classic 80s horror film if it didn't have the name Halloween 3. If that movie had just been called Season of the Witch, there'd be a lot more people out there that like it. I think it's a fun 80s horror movie. They just never should have called it Halloween. Soul Scorcher, Nightbreed is a fantastic movie, and I will take that to my grave. Thank you, sir. The Boys is a good show. The Boys is a good show. This controller is crazy. Lol, seriously. What controller? What are you talking about? This controller is crazy. What are you talking about, Juggernauts? Do you remember the Star Wars arcade-only game? I remember the one from the early 80s where you sat in it and you flew the X-Wing. I remember the sequel to it where it took place on Hoth. I remember Star Wars Arcade, which was the one they ported to 32X. And I remember I remember Return of the Jedi, which had the speeder bikes, which I didn't like as much. And I enjoyed the one where you could actually the arcade game where you could actually get into lightsaber fights. So I've liked pretty much every arcade Star Wars game, pretty much. Is Ghost Rider 2 better than Ghost Rider 1? It's different. Has a totally different tone. Ghost Rider 2 Spirit of Vengeance was done by the guys who did Crank and Crank 2. So that should give you an idea of the vibe of that movie. It feels totally different than the first one. It's a much darker, cynical comedy type of movie. And it feels grittier. It doesn't feel like a polished, generic superhero movie like the original Ghost Rider did. Don't get me wrong, there were things about the first Ghost Rider movie that I did like, particularly the scenes where he used the penance stare, him driving down the side of a skyscraper, stuff like that. That stuff was cool. But there was a lot of stuff in it that I didn't like too. Oh, the DualSense. I kind of took to the DualSense pretty quickly. It didn't really... I didn't have much of an adjustment to it at all. A little bit, but because it's a little bulkier than the DualShock 4. But when will Ghost Rider be introduced into the MCU? I think they're still trying to figure out whether they want to stick with this Robbie Reyes from S.H.I.E.L.D., which I hope they don't. I mean, the actor was fine in the role, but I've never liked the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. Or if my sense is that if Ghost Rider makes it in the MCU, it'll be through Doctor Strange somehow, and it'll be hopefully either Johnny Blaze or in the least Danny Ketch. Have you played Star Wars Squadron? We have it for PlayStation VR, but I have not played it. Do you think... Oh, by the way... Ghost Rider for PS2 and Xbox based on... Or did it come out? I don't think it came out for Xbox, did it? I think it was. I think that might have been exclusive to PS2 and the PSP. But the Ghost Rider game that came out based on the original Ghost Rider movie is actually a pretty solid game. It's a ripoff of God of War, but it's fun. So if you have a PS2 or preferably a PS2, the PSP version's kind of meh. If you have a PS2 and you happen across Ghost Rider for PS2, which the last time I saw one out in the wild, it was about $7, pick it up. Do you think Back to the Future won't ever get remade because Zemeckis is rightfully against the idea? It's my understanding that for at least as long as him and the writer are alive, they cannot reboot it and they can't sequelize it. And supposedly, he has somehow set it up legally to where even after they're gone, they can't do it. Nick Cage probably... I don't think he'll ever be brought back as Ghost Rider. He's too old at this point. It did come out on Xbox. I knew there was a Game Boy one that was kind of a like a side-scrolling beat-em-up type of thing. But I wasn't sure if Xbox got a version or not. I have it on PS2. Soul Scorcher donated $10. Thank you, Soul Scorcher, from my stimulus check. Stimulus well spent, sir, I guess. That puts us up to $15. We are now $35 away from the 10 o'clock goal. Oh, and by the way, I completely forgot what time it is. Cover your ears. Oh yeah, we got to give him a dollar bill. There you go, Soul Scorcher. Magic powers for Soul Scorcher. Got the dollar bill. So we have, it is past 7 o'clock. We have 2 hours remaining. We are still $35 away from extending to 10 o'clock. Thanks for the recommendation, by the way. Always on the lookout for new games for my PS2 collection. Absolutely. Man, Wannabe is really wanting to get banned. Wannabe, you are really trying to get under my skin for some reason tonight, sir. Look at this BS. Look at what this idiot posted in here. Now you know he posted that intentionally, trying to make me mad. There was no other reason why he would say such a thing in the chat. Blasphemy. Back when you could eat snack foods, what was your favorite bag of chips? Well, it wasn't really a bag. My favorite was Pringles. I just came back from playing Ghost of Tsushima and I love it. Yeah, it's a great game. Are you a fan of Faulty Towers? It's not one of my favorites, but I don't hate it. You know, I'm not what I would consider a connoisseur of British sitcoms. Mostly it's Red Dwarf. You know, I liked the IT crowd mainly because I work in IT, and so I know, I understand the jargon and I understand some of the stuff that happens on that show, and have actually pulled some of the same pranks that are on that show. I liked Black's Books. I thought it was fun. And I liked The Wild Ones back in the day. And of course, I liked Monty Python's Flying Circus. That goes without saying. And that's about it. Oh, and the Benny Hill Show. I liked the Benny Hill Show. And that's about it. I mean, I've seen some other ones. I've liked what I saw of Faulty Towers. I liked Mr. Bean. I liked some of Blackadder. I liked a few episodes of the British Empire with Chris Berry. One Foot in the Grave, Keeping Up Appearances. There were a few episodes of it that I liked. But again, I wouldn't call myself a connoisseur of British sitcoms. It's mostly just a small handful, which for the most part boils down to Red Dwarf and Monty Python and the IT crowd. Of course, Monty Python's not a sitcom. It's sketch comedy, but you get what I'm saying. Have I ever seen Robin Hood Men in Tights? Good Lord. I used to be able to quote that movie from start to finish. I actually saw it in the theater when it came out, if that tells you anything. 7th, besides popcorn, would you agree that hot dogs were good to eat at movie theaters? Depends on the movie theater. Best hot dog that I've ever had at a movie theater was in a chain that barely even exists anymore, and the pandemic probably shut down the few that were left, and that was Tinseltown, because they had a full deli in their lobby that made like the best movie theater chili dog I've ever had in my life, and it came in a box with a big freaking huge stack of seasoned fries. And when I moved to Florida and I discovered Tinseltown, I stopped going to AMC and I stopped going to Regal, and I went, and every movie I went to when I was living in Florida those first few years, I would go to Tinseltown to see it, just so I could get me that big ass hot dog and fries. Do you remember Real Gamer 27? I don't remember a Real Gamer 27. I remember the guy who I won the PS3 from that year. I can't remember what the beginning of his screen name was, but it ended in 37. And he was an older gentleman. He was like going on 40 when he got into the community, and he was more of just a simple, straightforward dude. He just kind of sat in his armchair and talked about games. And it was something 37, but I can't remember his full screen name anymore. I'm getting old. Are you the ruler of these netherworlds? I'm the ruler of my own world. Bills or Ravens? Couldn't give less of a shit. I don't watch sports. Blackadder is worth a watch. Are you looking forward to God of War Renegade? Do you mean God of War Ragnarok? Bottom is a good show. Haven't watched it. Do you remember the Corporate Slave Awards? Yeah, I was supposed to be a part of it this year, but for whatever reason, Black Bond didn't do it. Do you think GameStop is making a comeback? I don't know. I don't see it continuing in its current form. I miss Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks isn't dead yet. He just doesn't make movies anymore. He's kind of retired. Do you enjoy the Red Green show? Never seen it. Blazing Saddles is probably Mel Brooks' best movie. It is a good movie. It's one of my favorites from him. I like Blazing Saddles, Robin Hood, Young Frankenstein, Spaceballs, The Producers. He's put out History of the World Part 1 was a great one. I like root beer too. I haven't had a good root beer in a long time. I'd like some root beer. 7th, have you seen the sci-fi show The Expanse? I tried to watch the first episode of it and I fell asleep. Do you think the last Blockbuster is going to close down because of COVID? You never know. What do you mean Screenwave dropped you? Who's Screenwave was my YouTube network. They're the same guys that produce AVGN's channel now. Screenwave Media. They were my channel network. Prior to them, I was under TGN, which was just the gamer network. And in 2016, 8-Bit Eric convinced me to switch from TGN to Screenwave. And they announced to apparently a large number of their channel owners this month that they're dropping them as of January 31st. What do you say about the people who say if you're anti-scalper, then you're anti-capitalism? They are not correct. That's getting fairly close to a political question too, by the way, but since it's somewhat game related, I'll let that one slide, enemy. Do you like the show House of Cards? I watched a few episodes of it, and I mean, I liked the way it was done. And, you know, I know Kevin Spacey is kind of, you know, persona non grata these days, but as far as his performances go, I thought it was really, you know, well acted. But again, I don't care about politics stuff. So it didn't really hold my interest that much because, you know, what was I supposed to derive from it? Oh, all politicians are corrupted fucks. You don't say. Teach me something I don't know. Hard to believe El Presidor is still on YouTube making videos. Well, barely. He puts the bare minimum effort into his stuff, which he never put a tremendous effort into his stuff before, but now he really don't. That being said, I still watch him. Are CRT televisions superior to modern flat screens in any way? They last longer. What's your favorite Iron Maiden album? You're going to think I'm crazy, but probably Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Believe it or not. I'm not going to get into why. Expanse wants to be, we're OG Star Trek, and they did a good job, mostly better than, well, I'll give it another go. It sounds like you're bitter at 8-Bit. I'm not. Wasn't his fault. Free market is better than capitalism. You're trying my patience, wannabe. You've already been shit canned once. You want to get shit canned again? 7th, when is something a ripoff and when is it a tribute homage? It's a very fine line, Ultra Steel. Stranger Things is an homage to a number of 80s properties. John Carpenter films factors in greatly. Spielberg. Whereas a movie that I love from 1985, Roland Emmerich's second film, Making Contact, known as Joey in Europe, was an absolute ripoff because it not only borrowed elements of Steven Spielberg's E.T. and Poltergeist, it completely ripped off specific scenes. So instead of, trying to have the same style as Spielberg, like Super 8, for example, you had a scene that actually showed the same shot from E.T. Remember in E.T. where you kept seeing, you were up on a hill overlooking a valley and you could see the lights of the streets and the houses below when they were searching for him in the woods. That exact shot with a hillside and a billboard and trees and seeing the town lit up down below, exact same shot is in this movie. Star Wars toys in the bedroom, just like in Poltergeist and E.T. Toys flying around by themselves, just like in Poltergeist and E.T. House gets taken over by the government and covered in a bunch of scientific stuff, just like in E.T. I could go on and on and on. That movie it even has Darth Vader in it. Darth Vader appears in a movie not produced, directed by George Lucas. Not involved. Darth Vader is in the movie. He's only in it for 2 seconds, but he's in the movie. But still, I love it. Because when I was a kid, Making Contact was in every video store in my town. And it was for years. It was like a staple of video stores. Every video store that you walked into around Chattanooga, Tennessee, from 1985 up until around 1997 when DVD came out, had at least one copy of Making Contact. And I had seen it 60 times during that period. Because if I couldn't find anything else to watch, I would re-rent Making Contact. And I own it to this day. It is on no streaming services. You can't watch it on Prime. You can't watch it on HBO, Hulu, Netflix. None of them have it. The only place you can get it is either watching the bootleg of it on YouTube, and there's 2 different versions on YouTube. There's the American version and the German version, which is 20 minutes longer, but has a different ending. And the soundtrack sucks because it's all this kind of 80s synth stuff, whereas the American one has an actual, at least partially orchestral score. Much better soundtrack in the American version. But the only other way you can watch it besides a crappy bootleg of it on YouTube is to buy the Blu-ray, which I own. And I've been nagging Billy from the Game Chasers to watch it because he actually bought the Blu-ray at my recommendation, but I kept asking him, have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet? You've got to see this insane shit. And he was like, nope, haven't watched it yet. So I keep annoying him about it. I also gave him and Jay a copy of My Science Project on Blu-ray because neither of them have watched it either. And to me, that's a mainstay of 80s cinema. That movie was done by the same people that did Gremlins, for God's sake. It's a travesty for 2 guys that grew up in the 80s to have not seen Making Contact and My Science Project. It shall not stand. And that's why I chose to do something about it, and they keep putting it off. I watched WandaVision, and I enjoyed it mainly because when I was a kid, before we had cable, all I could ever get was reruns of stuff. So, like, I'd come home and all we had was NBC, ABC, and CBS. And there'd be some cartoons, like, Looney Tunes stuff. And then it didn't get till, like, 1983, 1984, where you had stuff like G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, all that stuff. Prior to that, it was all just, Three Stooges shorts and Little Rascal shorts and a bunch of and Woody Woodpecker and Bugs Bunny and crap in the afternoons. But also they ran a lot of reruns of Gilligan's Island, My Favorite Martian, I Dream of Jeannie, and Bewitched. And I loved Bewitched as a kid, so watching this was just like watching a couple of episodes of Bewitched I'd never seen. So I didn't mind it at all. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with it next. Let's see. I actually love Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. That was a great one, but my favorite might be A Matter of Life and Death, X Factor, and Fear of the Dark. Okay. Were you too old to enjoy Dexter's Laboratory? For the most part, yes. There was a couple of episodes that I don't even remember what they were about that I might have gotten tickled by. Might have made me snicker a couple of times, but I never was like this diehard fan of the show, no. Did you hear that Sony is going to produce a car? No, I hadn't heard that. Why do you think we never got an E.T. sequel? Because it didn't need one. I mean, they did do a sequel, but it was a book. Instead of a movie, it was a book. And it was called E.T. the Green Planet, I think was what it was called. And it was I don't remember who wrote it, but it was based on a story, if I remember right, that was co-written by Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy. I never read it. I could be misremembering who wrote it, but I remember that when the book came out, they were saying, this is the closest, this is official, we're considering this canon, and this is the closest to an E.T. sequel that you're ever going to get. Which ended up not being true because they brought E.T. back for a commercial with Henry Thomas like a couple of years ago. Had to turn my heater off. It was getting too hot in here. Growing the full beard. No, I need to shave the sides off. It's really meant to just be a big bushy goatee. And I need to trim the goatee. I need to dye the gray out. And I need to shave all this off. I've just been lazy because I can. I work from home now. And so this is pretty much what I look like when I'm working in IT. I wouldn't be able to get away with this if I was still having to go into the office every day. Are you still meep? Are you still burnt out on zombies? Yes. He-Man versus Lion-O. Gotta go with He-Man. Lion-O was okay, but he was also like a 10-year-old trapped in an adult's body. Are you a fan of Three Stooges? Yes. Do you like Stephen King's more paranormal stuff or his real world stuff like Stand By Me? I like them both about the same. That being said, there are some real world books that King wrote that has maybe like a little bit of supernatural stuff in them that I don't like. I didn't like the girl who loved Tom Gordon. I didn't like Gerald's Game. I didn't like Dolores Claiborne. So, I mean, and then he's done some true crime books over the years that are supposed to be kind of his take on like pulp crime novels. I didn't like any of those. How much can you deadlift? Probably not much now because I'm old and out of shape. Back when I was in high school, I think the most I ever deadlifted was like 225 or 275, something like that. I don't remember. But it was over 200 pounds. I remember that much. I have no idea if the Ravens are winning tonight. I don't watch sports. You know this. Do you remember the terrible game E.T.? All of the E.T. games have been terrible. There was the 2600 game, which I own. It was terrible. There was a PlayStation 1 game, which was terrible. There was a Game Boy Advance game, I believe. It was terrible. There's never been a good E.T. game. Do you like the Jim Carrey movie Once Bitten? Yes. It's not your typical Jim Carrey movie. It's before Jim Carrey became Jim Carrey. One of the reasons I like it is because the vampire's butler was played by Cleavon Little, the same guy who played Sheriff Bart in Blazing Saddles. Too hot in Texas? Well, no, it's just this room doesn't get good circulation, and so during the wintertime it gets super cold in here. And so when I came in here to do the cast, I turned the heater on, then I forgot about it, and it got ridiculously hot in here. Speaking of zombies, Z Nation was a great spoof, but it took itself too seriously and ruined a good thing. Well, I'm glad that I didn't bother to watch it then. Have you heard the news about the Game Explained scandal? No, I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you think Scientology is a cult? I know it is. Do you think the new Spider-Man movie with Tobey will be good? I suspect so. I don't like the Three Stupids. Okay, that one was just bad. That one didn't even have any effort on it. If you were here, I would bitch slap you. Just for that one, because of how bad it was. Just on sheer principle alone. I just watched the trailers for First Contact and My Science Project. Look, no, not First Contact. Making Contact. Making Contact. Ever read Eyes of the Dragon? Yes. He wrote that because his daughter asked him, why does he always write horror books? And so he wrote her a fantasy book. But he couldn't help himself, and he made Randall Flagg the villain and forever linked it to the Dark Tower series. Misery 1990 or Cable Guy 1996. Two totally different kinds of movies that I both enjoy, so I can't pick between the two. PSP or Vita? PSP has better library, Vita has better controls and a better screen. Is it possible to make a good E.T. game? I think it could be. Depending on what type of game you wanted to make it. It wouldn't make a good 3D platformer, but maybe a LucasArts point-and-click adventure game would be good. Raising Arizona will always be my favorite Nicolas Cage movie. What is your favorite Nicolas Cage movie? Probably Face Off. I could eat a peach for hours. Thoughts on Super Mario World 2? It's good, but I didn't like it as much as the original. If someone paid you $1 million to make a YouTube channel where all the content was about the world getting to watch your weight loss journey, would you do it? Yeah, for $1 million, posting footage of me stepping on a weight machine and walking around the neighborhood. Sure, why not? Bye, Master Chief Snake. Did you like the Mortal Kombat movie? Yes. Sequel was terrible, but I still enjoy the first one. Bad CGI and all. Terrible versus horrible. What's the difference? Terrible is bad. Horrible will give you nightmares. I never have been a huge fan of Ridge Racer, so I don't really care that PSP has the better Ridge Racer game. Don't really matter to me. My favorite racer the last 3 generations has been Burnout Paradise. I mean, you know. PSP has a lot of great games. I have a fairly sizable PSP library. It's pretty large. And that's because when we go to conventions, 8th the only thing 8th looks at retro-wise, he doesn't look at NES or SNES or Genesis or any of that. He goes looking for PSP, Vita, mostly PSP. He has a fascination with the PSP. And so most of the PSP games that we have are games that 8th has picked out at conventions. 7th, the only reason I want an Xbox Series X is for the backwards compatibility. Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of the Xbox have been talking about, oh, we're going to be getting all these great exclusives. And my reply to that has been, yeah, and I'm going to be able to play every single one of them for free on my Xbox One X without upgrading the hardware. Because I have Game Pass. Yes, I collect for the Vita as well. Thoughts on JTech TV saying he is not the PlayStation version of Crap Gamer? Oh, he absolutely is. He is to PlayStation what Crap Gamer used to be to Xbox. Absolutely. There is no question. And all of us in the community have known that for a decade now. We knew that before Crap Gamer was even around. We knew what JTech was, and we still do. Was the Cable Guy a ripoff of Misery? Well, it was a movie about Misery was a movie about a fan who was too much of a fan. Cable Guy was a movie about a lonely man who only had one friend, and so he became obsessed with that one friend. It's not quite the same thing. There's some similarities, but not enough for it to be a ripoff. What would you give Jet Force Gemini out of 7? Probably a 5. I wasn't a big fan of that game. Being stuck in the house for months made me unsub from a lot of the console war channels. What console war channels? The console war community doesn't exist anymore. It's the Crumb side. And they're not really console war channels because they don't debate. They don't argue. They just preach to their little sycophant hug box. The kind of stuff that we did doesn't exist in the community anymore. And hasn't for years. Crap Gamer versus Black Baron. Black Baron was kind of the El Presidor of the Wii. And I say that because El Presidor doesn't really care about the console war. He just was doing it for the enjoyment of the reactions he'd get. Because he was multi-console the whole time. He had a 360 and a PS3 the whole time. And that's what Black Baron was. Just for the Wii. Damn, I can't find those 80s films. Going to take me a while to find them. Like I said, I don't know about my science project, but Making Contact, the whole thing in 2 different versions is on YouTube. Rumors on Rare Replay coming to the Switch. It's probably a good fit. I miss the old debates you and MLD used to do. The thing of it is, me and MLD only actually ever debated once, and the rest of it was just us making response videos back and forth to each other. And even then, it took a while before MLD would respond to me. For a long time, he was only responding to like El Presidor, Solid Rev. And then I hit him really bad one night. And so he had to respond to me. And that's when he and I got going. I suppose GoldenEye and Perfect Dark could come to the Switch. I'm using a new vape flavor this week. Instead of just blackberry menthol or straight menthol, this is called mint menthol. And it has a really nice spearmint flavor, and I'm liking it a lot. Reminds me of the stuff I used to vape when I first got started. It was called White Walker, and it was made by a company called Seduce Juice that doesn't exist anymore. What happened to your old channel? I took it private. I finally beat Breath of the Wild, and the game turned into Zelda Animal Crossing. 300 hours and counting. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of. That being said, there 8th has some games where he's put in like in excess of 600 hours into one game. If I came over, why would you slap me silly? Because you've earned it. I'd slap your smile right down into the crack of your ass. Have you ever heard of the video game website One Angry Gamer? Yes. Dude's a nut job. Dude that runs it's a straight nut job. What game would you say you've put the most hours into? Oh, Lord. Well, consider this. I played Ninja Gaiden on NES for a solid year. Putting at least an hour into it every night for a solid year. So, in the least, I put 365 hours into that game before I finally beat it. Probably more because, rarely was my game sessions with Ninja Gaiden just an hour long. Did you have it out with J-Tech after he put the moves on Titanfall? Well, I just thought it was kind of gross. I mocked him on Twitter, but I mean, he's had me blocked on everything for years now. Why don't you quit vaping altogether? When it gets to the point where I can't easily afford to do it anymore, I will. I've quit vaping before. I quit for over a year when I first moved here. And then, I had a really crappy week at work and I picked it back up. But I haven't smoked cigarettes in God. Oh, since around 2012 or 13 at least. Why is the dude that runs One Angry Gamer a nut job? Just follow him on Twitter. You'll figure it out. Dude's certified. Certifiable. What got you smoking anyways? A woman. A woman. I had always told myself I'm never going to smoke because my dad smoked, 2 and sometimes 3 packs a day his whole life. Didn't have an ounce of cancer in his body when he died, but I had determined that I wasn't going to go that route. And I was living in Jacksonville on my own. And I had a friend with benefits who was a coworker of sorts. Worked in a different department from me. And one night she came over and we did the do for a couple of hours. And afterwards, we're laying there and she lights up a cigarette and she sticks it in my mouth. And she said, a good lay just isn't a good lay unless you smoke a cigarette afterwards. And I took a puff off of it trying to be polite. And the next thing I know, I'm buying my own. Do you think the censorship of Japanese games on PlayStation hurt the sales of the PS5 in Japan or had little to nothing to do with it? It had little to nothing to do with it. The PS5 sold out in Japan. They just didn't send that many units to Japan. They shortchanged Japan on stock in preference of sending more to the US and Europe. So it's not just, I would think that one major factor for Japanese gamers anyway would be the size of the console. But primarily, even for Japanese gamers that want the PS5, they can't get the PS5 any more easily than you can because they're sold out everywhere in Japan. And that's why they're not selling as many units as last year or last generation, because there's not as many units to sell. That's the primary reason. Review Tech USA versus Blackbuster Critic. Blackbuster Critic is funnier. I've had friendly conversations with Rich. I still have friendly conversations with Rich to this day. But he is a news for views channel, and that is not something that Blackbuster ever did. Walmart is shrinking on their game inventory. I wouldn't know. I don't buy games from Walmart. Would you answer my last question about JTech? I answered it. I told you that I thought it was nasty and that I made fun of him over Twitter. But that being said, he has me blocked on everything. He has me blocked on every social media that he has and has for years. You just weren't listening, son. Have you ever heard or seen the Video Game Critic website? No. Not at all. Oh, for those of you who joined late to the party, this is my new guitar effects pedal that I bought. The Boss ME80. This thing is a beast. It's an absolute beast. I'm very happy that I now own one. Fantastic foot pedal. Can't wait to really dig into it. I can't dig into it yet because I need another. It doesn't come with any cables. It didn't even come with a power cable because it runs off. It has a battery slot. So I have the power cable for it, but I need a couple of other cables for it before I can really use it. And so I'm waiting for them to come in the mail before I can really dig into the thing. Me and Titan were never an item. What the hell are you talking about? Me and Titanfall were never an item. I'm 1,200 miles. I'm actually more than that. I'm about 1,400 miles away, and I'm the wrong color. Titanfall Princess exclusively dates men of color. She will tell you that. She and I have never been anything more than just friends. And I've never implied otherwise. Do you agree, disagree that game reviews matter or not? In the greater scheme of things, no, they don't. The only opinion that matters is your own. Is Keanu Reeves out of place in Cyberpunk? I wouldn't say so. Not in the world that they created and the tone of it. Been playing Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a decent game. Hoping Guerrilla makes another Killzone game at some point. Who knows? Right now, Sony is completely without an exclusive first-person shooter, so something needs to happen. I don't know about getting some 7th splooge. You're going to get some 7th music. Are you surprised JTech is... I'm surprised anybody watches him. Hi, Pug. Do you agree that buying Xbox One and Xbox Series physical is pointless because the disc is nothing but an install key? To some extent, yeah. You put the disc in, it confirms that it's a legally purchased copy, and then it downloads the game off of the network. However, I can't say for Xbox Series X because I don't have a Series X. But on Xbox One, if you disconnected the system from the network, it would install the game off the disc. But if you were connected to the network, it didn't. It would install it off the internet. I tested and confirmed that. Yes, I still talk to Titanfall on Twitter, and she occasionally shows up here in the chat, but not as much as she used to. I would like to see Insomniac bring back Resistance, yes. How's your week? It's been rough. Been rough. Very busy week at work. That's why I didn't retro stream this week. I just couldn't get away from work. I was having to work over almost every night this week. It was rough. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who didn't show up when the show started, I have finally sat down and tested external hard drives on my PS5. In fact, I had two running on it at the same time. One in the back for running PS4 games, and one in the front for downloading video storage. No issues at all. I have ran multiple PS4 games off of it already in testing today. No issues. No crashes, no nothing. No artifacting, none of that. It worked perfectly. For those who have heard stories that, hooking up a hard drive to your PS5 is going to kill it. Worked fine. Do you remember Gamers Getting Played, the guy that wanted to start a gamers union? I don't remember him. The one that I remember was this really old guy who kind of seemed like he was on his last leg, and he lived down in somebody's basement. And his name was Laren Von Baron, I think, and I called him Lamer Von Gamer. He was the one that I always heard preaching the most about the Gamers Union. I don't think I ever had any interaction with someone named Gamers Getting Played. Unless that's the same guy, and that was just what his YouTube name was. But yeah, Laren Von Baron. It was some ancient dude. Dude was so old, when he moved his head, dust fell off of him. Do you play Burning Skies? And if so, what's your thoughts on it? No, I don't play Burning Skies. Burning Skies. Was that the flying game on the original Xbox? Or is that Crimson? That's Crimson Skies. I'm not sure I remember what Burning Skies is. Hold on just a second. Hold on a second. I don't even know if I own that one. Burning Skies. Are you talking about an expansion in Skyrim? Oh, the Skyrim mod? No, because I don't play Skyrim on PC, if that's what you were talking about. No, I didn't like Space Jam. Do you remember when Next Gen 720 thought? Yes, I remember. I heard putting your PS5 in rest mode can kill it. Any issues? I never put any of my consoles in rest mode. I don't use it. 8th has put his PS5 in rest mode numerous times and had no issues. No issues. I got engaged over the weekend. Oh, good for you. Good for you. What PS4 games play off the disc as opposed to installing on the hard drive? All of them install a certain amount of data just to speed up loading of the game. Blu-ray, by its very design, except for some higher speed computer drives, is a slow format to begin with. And so if you tried playing games strictly off the disc on PS4 or PS3, it would take forever to load, like a long time. So from the PS3 on, any system that's used a Blu-ray drive has installed a certain portion of the game, some more than others, on the hard drive. Sometimes it's very, very small. Like I think with the Uncharted games, it was like 50 megs or something like that. And some of them, it's like half the game data. It just depends on the developer and the game. I just realized I've had no magic power attacks tonight. That's curious. That is curious. It's pretty douchey that. I don't think that. I don't have a problem with anyone dating in or outside of their race. I've dated outside of my race. You know, black, Asian, Hispanic. I didn't do it because it was the in thing. I did it because I liked that person. You're not winning any kudo points with me on that one. I'm not going to go all SJW on you on that one, but that comment's a little bit much there, son. You need to broaden your horizons a little bit. You have been healthy, maybe. What does that mean? They should make a Blade Runner game. That would be cool. They did. It's called what was the name of that game? Stalker or whatever, the game that Kojima made for Sega CD. Also Rise of the Dragon. Rise of the Dragon is, and for all intents and purposes, a Blade Runner game. And chances are, I can't confirm it, but chances are there was probably at some point a Blade Runner game either for the Commodore, the ZX Spectrum, or as we say in the States, the ZX Spectrum, or the Amiga. They'll turn just, those computers had games that you never saw on any other platform. I'll give you an example. On Amiga, okay, Amiga, there is a side-scrolling action platformer that's based on the Hulk Hogan movie Suburban Commando. I shit you not. They would make a game out of any movie on that system. I'm just saying. Did you like the game Tales from the Borderlands? I'm not a big fan of Telltales. They feel like a LucasArts point and clicker with all the point and clicking taken out. To me, they're not really games. They're choose your own adventure books where you don't even have that many branching paths anymore. Have you seen the 1997 movie? I think actually it was 1996. I'd have to double check that. The Game with Michael Douglas. Yes. It's one of my favorite Michael Douglas movies. I actually saw that on a date in the theater with a woman who was 10 years older than me at the time. I was 23 and she was 33. Who's more evil, Voldemort or Palpatine? Probably about the same. How much should an engagement ring cost, and how much did you spend on yours? I don't even remember now. I think the tradition is that an engagement ring is supposed to cost 2 times your monthly salary. So if you bring home $4,000 a month after taxes, the engagement ring should be $8,000. That's the tradition. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it's got to be, but that's the tradition. identity politics is politics. Now, what have I told multiple people on this chat already, Natty Vegan Gains? That's strike 2. I'm just telling you the truth, Short Round. Traditionally, 2 times your monthly salary was the price you paid for an engagement ring. Why didn't you like living in Georgia? It was there was always road construction, and it was a very spread out state. You know, I was always having to drive half an hour no matter where I was going to get anywhere. And that's not even including the delay that the road construction would cause. You know, everything was 30 minutes away, and then that could turn into an hour drive because of the traffic caused by the constant road construction. They had, when you got to downtown Atlanta, they had serious sanitation issues. And I just, I just never enjoyed it. I found it to be, I'm a redneck, but, Georgia has rednecks on a whole other level. Not so much as Florida, but beyond what you'd run into in Tennessee. Now, if you're up in North Georgia, like right on the border with Tennessee, then that's pretty much the same type of redneck you'll run into in Tennessee. But once you get down into South Georgia and Mid Georgia, oh boy. Oh boy. Do I like talking about wars? Not especially. 7th, did you like Home Improvement? Not really. Who is your favorite celebrity that you've met at a convention? Roddy Piper. 7th, living in rural places, how's the internet speed? It's crap. Did you find it odd that the Chinese movie known as The 800 was the #1 highest grossing movie, outdoing Sonic the Hedgehog? No, because I don't pay attention to that kind of thing. No, I would not move to Costa Rica. Kind of an odd question. I never really have had an interest in living anywhere except the United States. Or even like a United States province like Puerto Rico or what have you. I've never wanted to live anywhere but the mainland. The only places that I would consider it would be, I would consider living a year in Japan just to say that I did it. And other than that, probably I would go for somewhere really quiet and neutral and away from everything. Like, and some, I enjoy warm weather, but maybe just somewhere with a cooler climb just to have a change of pace. Like, just off the top of my head, Norway, somewhere like Norway, move to Norway and live in Norway for a while. Maybe Scotland. I don't know. What ISPs do you have in your area? Only one. Suddenlink. Would you consider getting laser eye surgery to fix your eye condition? Several of the people that I know who have actually gotten LASIK, their vision ended up being worse than when they started, so I probably wouldn't bother with it. Have you seen the Matt McMuscle's What Happened video series on? I've seen a few of them. It's a pretty fun series. Montana. Iowa? No, that's a little too rural for me. When I say quiet, I don't mean like out in the middle of nowhere. Why doesn't Titanfall Princess do YouTube anymore? She just got tired of it. I mean, I can't really say I blame her. She had people shitting on her pretty regularly the whole time that she was making videos, either accusing her of being trans or shitting on her because of various affiliations with people that she associated with. And so, basically, the people on YouTube hounded her off YouTube for the most part. She finally got to a point where she decided that it wasn't worth putting up with anymore, and she quit. Would you like living in Hawaii? No. There's only 3 things in Hawaii: beaches, volcanoes, and crystal meth. And I'm not a huge fan of any of those 3. What keeps you making videos? Just to have a creative outlet? No other reason than that. 7th, do you like the song Margaritaville? Not especially. Is she never going to show her face? I don't know if she was a juggalo, but no, she's never shown her face. One time she sent me a picture of her face, but she had intentionally made the picture out of focus where I could only see the shape of her face, not the detail of it. She's a very private person. Is the world becoming more like They Live, or am I just seeing things? The world was already like They Live when they made They Live. That was the point of They Live. You could move to New Zealand. Oh, sure. Do you find the niche Japanese anime cheesecake fan service game community crazy? Like, I have not indulged in that community, Sonic X9. You have obviously been to places on the internet that I don't bother to tread. Why do you think we never got a They Live sequel? Because it didn't make enough money for one. Plus, Roddy Piper's character died at the end of it. I think they made like a graphic novel or a comic series after it. It was loosely based on a short story that was turned into a short comic. So, story was a little bit different. You forgot the 1 hour warning again. Well, crap. There you go. We have 1 hour remaining. We are still $35 short of extending to 10 o'clock. So if $35 don't show up in the next hour, that's where the show ends. Why was Titanfall Princess so aggressive? Jersey Girl. Natty's another one trying to get himself blocked off the chat. Had 3 of them in one night. 3 of yous in one night just desperately trying to get blocked. I don't see what the point is. You know that you're not going to get me angry enough to have an angry reaction, that I'm just going to send you away. There's no such thing on the in this community as someone who can get under my skin. That has been proven over the last 11 years. But y'all keep on trying and keep on failing. Have you ever watched Wolverine and the X-Men? Yeah, I didn't like that one. It may have made $10 million over its production budget, but it still didn't make enough to warrant making another film. It was considered a cult classic. It's not like where they spent $250,000 to make Halloween and it made millions at the box office. It made its money back, but it wasn't what they would call a hit. Did Lebowski ever threaten me? No. He threatened other people, but he never threatened me. 7's what the funniest thing you've ever heard 8th say online? Nothing, because he keeps his door closed. And the only people he talks to online are his personal circle of friends. 8th is not as much of an extrovert as I am. I'm kind of out there, say the first thing that comes to my head kind of guy. That's not 8th. 8th is more mellow than I am. Is Google Stadia like the Dreamcast because it's more powerful than the 8th gen but less powerful than the 9th gen, or not comparable? Not really comparable because it doesn't have its own internal power. Stadia is powered by the servers that are running the games. Stadia is basically just a set-top box and a controller. $5 from Enemy TV. Have I ever seen Nymphomania? Not that I can remember, no. That put us up to $20, but for some reason it didn't update the donation bar. I do not know why. It should have updated the donation bar, but it did not. That should say $20 right now. I swear that donation bar is... I ought to just get rid of it because it doesn't work half the time. Anyway, thank you for the $5, Enemy. That puts us up to $20. We're $30 away from the $50 goal. Recently watched The Day the Earth Stood Still. Are you a fan of it? Yeah, I like the original. Not so much the remake with Keanu Reeves, though. Well, so far, everything that's been donated tonight has been a super chat. It hasn't been a Streamlabs. I think maybe one of them was Streamlabs. Maybe. I could verify that in a minute. But both of them should be updating that bar. Oh, okay, yeah. Both of them should be updating that bar, though, so I don't know. Something's broke somewhere. Stupid Streamlabs software. Do you like the Eric Andre show? I've only watched like bits and pieces of it. 8th's a fan of it, and me not so much. Who's a bigger joke, JTech TV or Crap Gamer? About the same, it's just Crap Gamer has a bigger audience. Why did Game Pass take games away if they paid to have them on the service? Because they only pay to have them on the service for a given amount of time. That's how they're able to afford to do it. Because they're not paying for the game to be on there in perpetuity. They're paying for the game to be on there a set amount of time. Just like with Netflix, unless it's something made by Netflix, it's only on there for a while, and then the license they paid for expires and it goes away. The only games that are ever going to stay on Game Pass are first party. Do you like War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise? I like some parts of it. The ending is stupid because there's no way that his son survived what his son did. Did you like The Day After Tomorrow? No. 2012 was okay, but Day After Tomorrow was trash. And the only reason 2012 was okay was because of John Cusack. Have you ever broken a game from raging? Yeah, I broke Marvel vs. Capcom for the Dreamcast. I was playing it single player, and for some reason, Magneto kept kicking my ass, and I got really mad, and I took the disc out of the Dreamcast, and I slung it across the room like a frisbee, and it shattered to pieces on the wall. Is Nymphomania that movie with Shia LaBeouf? No, that's Nymphomaniac. Would you interview Titanfall Princess? I don't think she'd want to be interviewed. I mean, I used to show up on her podcast every now and again. But I wouldn't consider that an interview. Mine was a Streamlabs. Okay. Well, thank you, opinionated gamer. Which will be the 9th gen equivalent to the original Wii in terms of an underpowered non-competer to the PS5? The equivalent to the Wii will be whatever the next Switch is. It's not going to be the Atari VCS or the Intellivision Amico. The Atari VCS is just a stripped down basic computer. I mean, you can install Linux or Windows on it, for crying out loud. 7th dinner time. See you next week. Later. 7th, have you or 8th played Ty the Tasmanian Tiger? I played the first one. I can't remember if I played it on PS2 or Dreamcast, but I've played the first one. That was the only one that I played. I didn't even know it had sequels. Did you like Jeepers Creepers? I did until I found out that the director was a pedo. 2002 could have been better, but it had more stuff going on than Day After Tomorrow. Day After Tomorrow was, oh no, ice, run. Victor Silva, I think is his name. I used to like the movie Powder too until I found out, that it was made by a pedo, and then that put a whole different spin on some of the scenes in that movie, and I was like, nope. Because at one point I just thought that maybe Powder was bisexual, but then after I found out what Silva was into, it put a different context to some of the scenes in that movie. And so I was like, nope, not supporting him anymore. That's sick. Would you ever go on the Weapon Wheel I've been on the Weapon Wheel podcast. I was on it 4 or 5 years ago. Only once. Only been on it once. Any retro gaming tomorrow? Sunday is usually my I don't do crap day, because I spend at least 3 hours of my Saturday doing this. 7th, what's your thoughts on video game stereotype of it being just for kids? It's bullshit. Always has been bullshit. Do you think Broken Games HD is bad when it comes to gaming news? I don't watch him for gaming news. I will say that I think he does more of his own straight opinion than a typical news for views whore. So I don't watch those from him, so I don't know what his particular opinions are on things, but I've watched a couple of them, and he spends a long time talking about his feelings about this and that and the other. He's not just, reading news stories off of N4G. Do you like Jeepers Creepers 2? I watched it once, and again, then I found out what the director was all about, and I haven't watched it since. Why don't you debate on YouTube anymore? Because nobody debates on YouTube anymore. No one makes response videos. If someone says something stupid and you make a response video, then they pull a Wizard of Oz, fly my pretties, fly, fly, and send their little cocksuckers over to flag your video. They don't debate anymore. Haven't for years. They don't have the balls to do it because they don't care about being right. They don't care about defending their opinion. What they care about is ad revenue. And if someone comes out and paints them as being a dumbass or a liar, then they go into defense mode and try to get that video removed rather than proving their opinion. All the Xbox guys left when MLD quit and got replaced by a bunch of cowards. Period. What's your favorite Southern delicacy? Barbecue. And chicken fried steak. And chicken fried chicken. Who's your favorite character in the Yakuza series? I'm not a big enough fan of it to be able to tell you. It's not about politics, it's about money. They want to protect that revenue stream. They quit their jobs, a lot of them, not all of them, like Colt Eastwood still has a regular job. They quit their jobs to do YouTube full time, and so they're especially protective of that revenue stream because if anything causes their viewership or their subscription base to drop, like for example, being proven that they're full of shit, then that's, affecting their rent and what have you. And they're not having that. So rather than try to take a chance on proving that their opinion is correct, they'll just send their little cult worshippers over to flag your shit down. Then Natty, you go tell that to her. Your attraction to her has nothing to do with me or this podcast. Just do it in public. Don't be creepy in DMs. What's the best burger you've ever had? Fast food burger? Whataburger. Will Persona 6 be cross-gen or PS5 only? Probably timed exclusive for PS5. Probably. Although, considering it could end up being cross-release on the Switch. We'll have to see. Seventh, do you think the guy who played Biff could have been a great Eddie Brock? If they had had the tech to do Spider-Man back then, sure. Do you think member-only streams will be the future of YouTube, or will live streams stay mostly free? Mostly free, because the only people that are going to get away with doing members-only streams are people that already have a crap ton of loyal subscribers anyway. Like, I would never do that because I would assume that the majority of you like watching me, but not enough to pay a monthly fee to do it. Because if you did, my Patreon wouldn't be empty right now. Thoughts on the Xbox version of Uncharted Indiana Jones? We still don't know whether it's going to be exclusive or not. We'll see. That depends more on Disney than it does Microsoft. And Disney likes to make money. Depends, what do we get for that monthly fee? Me. You get to watch me talk to you. The same thing that I'm giving you now for free. You should open up memberships on here. People might want to have a badge next to their names and be in green. I can't see any of you guys paying a monthly membership to have an icon about me next to your name. I just don't see that. And memberships have been around for a while now, and that's the first time anyone's ever asked me about membership. So I would say that the majority of you couldn't care less about being members of 7th. Do you think Darkside Phil should quit YouTube? That's strictly up to him, man. I mean, on some level, he's going to be entertaining even if you hate him, because you love hating him. So he can be the worst gamer in the world, but you get entertainment from watching how bad he is at whatever he's playing, or how, or what have you. Whether it be his, bad opinions, or getting caught, doing what he did live on a live stream. Church of 7th sounds pretty cool. Well, I was Reverend 7th for a while. 7th, I need your advice. How do you get over a girl? You stop thinking about her. It's really that simple. The only person that has control of your mind is you. Imagine a light switch with that girl's name on it, and turn the light switch off. And then don't think about her anymore. It's that simple. If there's a person that's in my life and I decide that I don't want to have anything to do with them for whatever reason, I just flip the switch, and then their name never even crosses my mind. And if you don't have the ability to just flip the switch, go do all the things that she didn't like when you went and did them. If she didn't like you hanging out with your friends, hang out with your friends every night after work. You get what I'm saying? You can't be focusing on an ex if you're constantly doing things that didn't involve your ex to begin with. Do all the things that you loved that you had to compromise or give up entirely to be with that person. Grab some money, load up your backpack, pick a spot on the map, and drive somewhere you've never been before. Whatever. Get a friend with benefits. Whatever. But don't jump right into another relationship trying to replace her. Don't do that either. You want to have some, side ass, that's fine. But don't get in a relationship. Just do you for a while. Yes, Black Bond still makes videos. What's the loudest explosion you have ever heard? I have been to a gravel quarry before, where they were blowing up the sides of the quarry wall. That was probably the loudest explosion I've ever heard, because I was down in the bottom of a quarry, that was like, a couple hundred feet deep doing tech work on their wireless internet connection down in the, the asphalt office or whatever, their little trailer down there. And they set off some TNT and just blew up a big chunk of the wall. That was really loud. And because I was 200 feet down in a quarry, it echoed a lot. The ground shook, the building shook. It was a mess. I'm doing fine, Master Millions. We are $30 away from the 10 o'clock goal, and we've only got 30 minutes left. 7th, in Christianity, how is heaven described? There is a gate of gold, right? I'm curious with the history and description of all of it. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a great amount of description of what heaven is visibly, other than it's mentioned Peter was told by Christ that he was given the keys to life and death. And so people picture that as the gates. And there are verses speaking of God being in heaven on his throne with his son sitting at his side, etc., etc. And then, in my Father's house there are many rooms and so on and so forth. But there's never been in the Bible like a literal physical description. When you die and go to heaven, this is what it looks like. You will be walking around on clouds with big golden gates and a bunch of little baby cherubs flowing around on little tiny wings playing harps. There's none of that is in there. None of that. None of that. I think there's maybe a couple of verses that talk about streets of gold, and that's about it. Who's worse, DSP or Wings of Redemption? I couldn't really tell you. I don't watch either one of them. Do all souls eventually get cast into heaven? Not necessarily. Your 2 cents on the Intellivision Amico. I don't need one. I have an original Intellivision with multiple games for it. Exuvia trying to troll me with fake names. How stupid do you think I am, son? You're getting close, Exuvia. You're getting close. My finger's on the button, son. What do you think you do in heaven? Whatever you want to do. As long as it's not something that's going to, piss God off. But I would think once you get there, then you no longer have any desire to do anything that would piss God off. You're too much in awe of the wonder of it all. Me, because I'm who I am, I would imagine that as a denizen of the afterlife, that you are no longer tied to the laws of physics, time, or space, which means if I wanted to go back in time and physically witness the sinking of the Titanic, or go back in time and witness the life of Christ, or go back in time and see any great historical event that I wanted to see, go back and see some dinosaurs, go back and see whatever, I could do that. That's what I would probably be doing. It's just getting the answers to everything that I was ever curious about. But then again, once you're actually there, maybe stuff like that happens in our limited scope reality that we're in doesn't hold any fascination for you anymore after seeing that. Who knows? I'll find out when I get there. Are video games sinful? Anything that can be done to excess is a bad thing. If you're not out living your life because all you literally do is play video games from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed, that's a bad thing. Which system has aged better, NES or SNES? They've aged about the same, really. One just has prettier graphics than the other. That's about it. Which will sell more PS5s in Japan? Final Fantasy 16 or Persona 6, and why? Both of them have about the same level of popularity in Japan. In America, it's a different story. America would probably be more Final Fantasy, but in Japan, they're probably like right up there with each other on popularity. So I would say both of them would probably sell about the same amount of systems. Have you watched Disenchanted on Netflix? I tried to watch some of it, and I thought it was boring, and so I haven't been back to it. YouTube hosts a boxing event, and J-Tech is your opponent. Would you box him? No, because that's a stupid concept. That's a stupid concept. I'm also 46 years old and half crippled. So it would have to be a situation where I would have to wait on him to make a dumb mistake and just take him out in one shot. Because I don't have speed anymore. I don't have reflexes anymore. All I've got left is stopping power. So I'd basically just have to defend myself, wait for him to come at me, and make a mistake and leave an opening and just take advantage of it and exert myself. If J-Tech ever wanted to come at me, anybody can swing a fist. I'd want him to come at me with his words, with his intellect, which we both know he doesn't have. Which was more tragic, the Hindenburg or the Titanic? I think way more people died on the Titanic. And it's even sadder with the Titanic because there was no one there to witness it except the handful of people that survived it. So, anyone can go back and witness the horror of the Hindenburg. There is no commemoration in that way for the Titanic other than going down in a submarine to see what's left of it. Yeah, and that also is part of what makes Titanic more tragic, is that you can go down there in a submarine, at least right now, and see this horrible event frozen in time right in front of you. You can see the damage and just picture people dying on that ship. You can't go and see what's left of the Hindenburg. There might be a place where you can go see some of its girders or something, but there is no going down and seeing this massive ship, sitting there on the bottom of the ocean, torn to pieces. Do you remember Next Gen 720 and Hard 8 Times Beef? Which one? They've had multiple. At the moment, it's not like we can do much else besides sit in the house and play video games because of the run. No, you can do a lot of things. You can learn to play an instrument. You can write. You can make videos. You have multiple creative outlets that you can partake in without ever leaving your house. So that's a cop-out. Seventh, I think you would get along with Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. You're both awesome dad and love retro games. Okay. Seventh, I finished The Outsider. What HBO show are you looking forward to? The Snyder Cut. That's pretty much it. How are your knees and back? Sore. What do you mean you're half crippled? I can't walk around that good. I've got a bad back, bad knees, bad ankles. I don't have to walk with a cane yet, but, I don't get around like I used to. The things that I have wrong with me are just kind of slowly taking me apart bit by bit. At this point, I don't expect to live that much longer than my old man did, which means I have 15 years left, maybe. Probably 20 tops. You get paid $200 an hour to play a game, but it can only be one game. What would you choose? MAME. I know technically that's not a game, but you know what I'm saying. Believe it or not, TNT brought down the Titanic. I don't believe that. You're buying into conspiracy theories there. Have you met Mark Henry or Steve Austin? No, not met either one of them. Have you ever watched Scottish Duck? No. Can you still drive? Of course I can still drive. I can still walk. I just don't walk as fast or as far as I used to. I mean, I'm not like, I don't hobble around, but I can walk around for about 10 minutes at a time, 10, 15 minutes, and then I got to sit down and take a break. And then I can get up and walk, after I've sat for 20 or 30 minutes, then I can get up and walk around some more until my back or my knees or my ankles start hurting so bad that I can't take it, and then I got to sit down some more. Lower back. I'm also starting to develop some pain in my hip joint. I don't even know what's causing that. Did you like the movie Titanic 2? No, it was terrible. That was like an asylum film, or at least it felt like one. Who would win in an MMA fight, General G or Humpmaster Fletch? General G would murder him. 7th, you got to have more faith in yourself. I know you're trying to be realistic, but I'm not being cynical. I'm being realistic. The majority of the men in my family don't make it to 65. We are going to miss you if you pass. Well, you'll always be able to watch these. Until YouTube goes out of business, you'll always be able to watch these. And maybe I'll put it in my will that if YouTube gets replaced by something else, that if 8th wants my money, he has to put my videos up somewhere else. So y'all can keep watching them. 7th, I'm trying to get into video editing. What video editor do you use? Vegas. Sony Vegas. Thoughts on Ultimate Warrior? He had a lot of chemistry, but not a lot of wrestling skill. Can I recommend Scottish Duck to you? Sure, go ahead. 7th, if you do move on to the afterlife, what's a message that you would want to leave us? Please don't say, show me your red sun. I don't know, man. Make sure you live the life that will get you there with me. How about that? Don't be an asshole in life. When I'm gone, make sure you live the type of life. If I'm someone that you care about or someone that you like or someone that you admire, then for God's sake, if not for the sake of seeing your family again, then live the kind of life that will make it to where you can see me again someday. Which should be the least of your concerns. I'm just saying. Yes, there's a Titanic 2, and it's terrible. A direct-to-video piece of crap. Do you think Stephanie McMahon is easily embarrassed? I don't know. Don't know her. My dad would have made it past 66 if he didn't have cancer. My dad didn't die of cancer. Died of undiagnosed heart disease. Congestive heart failure. Undiagnosed. Wasn't on medication for it. Probably wouldn't have taken it if he had had it. because he just didn't trust doctors. It was a rite of passage just trying to drag his ass to a doctor. Titanfall likely will have already forgotten about me by the time I'm gone. She will have moved on with her life. And like I said, there is no emotional or physical attraction between the two of us. We're just people that like talking about games. Thoughts on Dr. Mario? It's just another puzzle game with a picture of Mario slapped on it. If I was going to have a Tombstone Final Master Link, that's probably what would be on it. Now, where else have we seen someone die before their time? That's right. But I won't have a tombstone. I'm going to have myself cremated and 8th can just scatter me somewhere. Don't want no tombstone, don't want no marker. Do you want a gaming laptop? Not especially. If I was going to play PC games, I'd play it on a PC. I don't even have... The only laptop that I have right now is my company work laptop. I don't even have a personal laptop at this point. I just have my PC. Favorite John Cena film? I don't have one. I'm trying to find Making Contact. Not happening, it seems. You can either buy it for about $18.95 on Amazon on Blu-ray, or you can watch it for free on YouTube. Just look up Making Contact full movie on YouTube. It's on there. There's 2 different versions of it. There's the American cut and the German cut, extended cut. I like the American one better. 7th, what's the best Rampage game in the Rampage series? Rampage. 7th, is it weird that I hate beer and don't care for... I'm not a fan of beer either. To me, it always tastes like it came straight from the horse. Since you guys keep asking about it, because I brought it up. Since we're almost out of time anyway, so why does it matter? Here's the trailer for it. There's the trailer for it. Here's the US cut. Here's the 20-minute longer German cut. There you go. Now you have it all. Warning, the American cut has some graphical errors in the rendering, so occasionally it'll artifact real bad so you can't see it, but it eventually fixes itself. And the German one, every now and again, it'll skip backwards about 10 to 20 seconds, so it'll make you watch 10 to 20 seconds of it over again. Happens 5 or 6 times during the video. Let's see here. Name some of your favorite platformers. Well, you know, Mario, Sonic. Even though most people don't like it, I like High Seas Havoc. I liked some of the James Pond games, a couple of them, a couple of the early ones. I've liked a lot of platformers, but it also depends on whether you're talking about pure platformer like Mario or action platformers like Ninja Gaiden, Bionic Commando. Even though you can't jump, it's still a platformer. Chip and Dale, DuckTales. We have 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left, and we're still $30 short. Thoughts on Sackboy? It's basically Super Mario 3D World. If you like Super Mario 3D World, you'll like Sackboy. Why don't I have an Xbox Series X? Doesn't have any exclusives that warrants me owning one. Every single game that can be played on the Series X, I can already play it on the Xbox One X because it's the same library. Thoughts on Midway games? Well, some are good and some aren't. I mean, you know, Rampage is good. Mortal Kombat's good, but it had some they had some stinkers too over the years. Do you like The Pathless? I haven't played it. Eighth has. Eighth has it in his room. Have I seen the movie Rampage? Yes, I have. It's good, dumb fun. 7, does it ever bother you when English dubs of native movies, let's say Chinese for example, are cheesy and terrible? I couldn't watch Ip Man 4 without reverting to its original dub. I didn't watch the English dub of any of those. I watched them all in the original dub. Same thing for Japanese movies. Every now and again, I'll watch the English dub of an anime if, you know, I hear from friends that the English one is funnier than the Japanese one, but otherwise I watch the original dub with subtitles. Favorite Kirby game, the original. Ever played Azure Dreams on PS1? Yes, I have. It's basically a roguelike because you know you go in the tower, you make it as far in the tower as you can, and you know you die, and then you're back at the bottom of the tower again. It's more or less a roguelike. It plays similar to an RPG on the Dreamcast that I have, but I can't remember the name of it. How long until the PS5 will be easy to buy? I don't know. Possibly another 6 months. Did you like the Scott Pilgrim game? Yeah, it's a great beat 'em up. Great graphics, great gameplay, and excellent music. Thoughts on Ubisoft making a Star Wars game? I'll believe in it when I see it. Until then, I have serious misgivings. Am I allowed to ask you a specific question about a specific person? That depends on who the person is and what it is you're asking about them specifically. Panty and stocking. Not my kind of show, Kona Squid. Not my kind of show. I agree with the dub, and yes, I've seen an episode of it, so I'm telling you, it's, you know, I get why some people get into it, but it's not my kind of thing. Let's see here. I agree with the dub sub thing, especially Godzilla movies. Yeah, especially Godzilla movies. Have you played Godfall? No. Didn't buy that one. Miles Morales or the original? They play about the same, really. Did you like The Goonies? Oh, I love The Goonies. I've seen that movie a million times. I own the 25th anniversary collector's edition Blu-ray of that movie with the box set that comes with the map and all that stuff in it. I've also got Goonies 2 on NES, and I've got a ROM of the original Goonies arcade game as well, which it was a sequel to. Yeah, Kona, but it's that, you know, we're so shocking type comedy that, that the kind of stuff that appeals more to weeboos than me. It's not as intelligent, and I know this sounds funny saying this, but it's not as intelligent as that show about what was the name of that show? The one about dirty jokes or whatever. It doesn't have the satire and intelligence of humor as that show. When do you think Ratchet and Clank will announce a launch date? I don't know. I figured it would be a Q1 game, but you never can tell. I would think that we'd be hearing a release date by now if that was the case. Is Miles a better game besides graphics? And it's about the same, just shorter. It's not a 5-hour game like people wanted you to believe it was, but it is shorter than the original. Asking me about an election is in itself a question about politics. Rigged or otherwise. How do I get blocked? By being a dickhead who is more interested in getting attention, negative attention from me, than just being cool and participating in the chat like other people. That's how you get blocked. Someone who comes into the chat trying to make it about themselves instead of just taking part like everybody else. All right, political question. See you later, vegan. I warned you. Why do you think we never got a sequel to the Goonies? Lack of a good script, lack of interest in creating one, a change in interest in kids going on adventure style films, because it kind of got run into the ground after the Goonies. You had the Ruskies, you had Monster Squad, all these other different wannabes, and by the time there was a nostalgic interest in making another one, all the kids were adults. Future of the DualSense, either developers will support it and it'll become a default for every controller that comes after it, or developers will not adopt it and it'll just be left behind with the next, whatever the next iteration of controllers will be. Why do you think Kathleen Kennedy hasn't gotten fired yet? She probably has some dirt on people. Probably. Wannabe gamer. I am blocked, so later 7. So what are you saying? That Natty Vegan Gains was your sock account? Is that what you're trying to say? If so, it wasn't a very good one. By the way, admitting that you waste the time in creating burner accounts just to be a mildly annoying asshat in the chat will get you blocked too. I ain't got time for that shit. Joseph Italiano. Not much, man. You came in right at the end of it. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. In fact, you know what? I'll just say goodbye to him too. There. Now he doesn't have to wonder what it takes to get blocked. Do you think Joy-Con drift will be fixed? Who knows? Who knows? Is this in English? Do I not sound like I'm speaking in English? Did you like The Mandalorian? Yes, very much so. Were you ever a fan of lava lamps? No. And with that, it is 9 o'clock. We are $30 short of the $50 goal. So, why are you blocking? Gee, I don't know. Why am I blocking? Blocked. We are $30 away from the $50 goal, so this is where I'm going to say goodnight. And we will go from there. I will see you again this time next week. Be thinking about what you want to talk to me about, what kind of questions you want to ask. And I will see you then, same 7th time, same 7th channel. Hopefully I'll be able to do a retro stream next week too. Hopefully. So I'll talk to y'all then. Be sweet, y'all.